It is with a peculiar thrill that I commit to paper the strange circumstances surrounding what has made to be known in certain musical circles as the Song of the Vanishing Piano. Few events in my long acquaintance with Mr. Sherlock Holmes demonstrated with such clarity his uncanny method of deduction, and few occasions showed more plainly how my own role as humble chronicler and faithful companion provided both contrast and completion to that singular intellect. The affair began upon one of those damp and sooty evenings in London when the fog seems to press against the windows of Baker Street like a half conscious spirit demanding admittance. The gas lamps flickered in a haze, and the sound of carriage wheels outside came muffled, as if London itself were wrapped in cotton. Holmes had spent much of the day silent and restless, stretched upon the settee with his long fingers interlaced beneath his chin, a familiar sign that his mind was engaged upon some abstract speculation. Had been attempting to digest a medical journal, though truthfully I had read the same page 3 times without comprehension, distracted by the intense stillness of my companion. My dear Holmes, you have been staring at that ceiling for the better part of the afternoon. I cannot but conclude that some case, or perhaps the want of one, has occupied your thoughts.
Elementary Watson, I am, as you say, occupied, but by absence rather than presence. You will observe that the calling card tray upon our mantel is empty, and Mrs. Hudson has twice informed us that no visitor has rung at our bell. For 3 days the stream of human problems has dried to a trickle. The city of London has, quite inconsiderately, ceased to be interesting.
You astonish me, Holmes. Surely the metropolis of several millions cannot fail to supply intrigue and crime even for a single evening.
On the contrary, my dear fellow, it can. The criminal class is as subject to fatigue as any honest labourer. One may as well expect perpetual harvest as perpetual villainy. But mark me, when the pendulum ceases to swing, it but gathers force to strike again. I predict that before the night is out, Baker Street will not be so quiet.
It was as if the great detective had summoned destiny with his words. For no sooner had he spoken than there came a sharp rap upon the door, followed by Mrs. Zondon, Hudson's somewhat breathless voice.
Mr. Holmes, sir, a gentleman to see you, says it is most urgent.
A moment later, into our sitting room stepped a tall and somewhat cadaverous man of middle years, dressed in a frock coat that had clearly seen better days, and carrying beneath his arm a folio of sheet music so swollen with loose pages that it threatened to scatter its contents upon a hearthrug. His expression, pale and strained, betrayed an agitation not far from panic. His hair was unkempt, his boots poorly polished, yet his fingers were long, delicate, and bore the unmistakable calluses of a musician.
Mr. Sherlock Holmes, thank heaven I have found you. My name is Arthur Penfield, late of the Royal Academy of Music. I implore you, sir, to hear my case, for I am on the verge of ruin.
You are most welcome, Mr. Penfield. Pray be seated. You will find the chair by the fire the most comfortable. Allow me to relieve you of your folio. Ah, I perceive it concerns a pianoforte composition written in your own hand.
You are correct, sir, though I marvel how you knew it.
Elementary. The ink stains upon your right cuff match precisely the fresh notation on the uppermost leaf. The nervous tremor in your left hand is not congenital, but the result of recent over-practice upon the keys. And your manner of carrying the folio clutched, not as an idle portfolio, but as a mother clutches a child, speaks of personal authorship.
The poor man gazed at Holmes with wide eyes, as though confronted by a sorcerer.
Then you will understand, sir, how desperate is my plight. I have written, nay, I had written, a composition intended for public premiere at St. James's Hall next week. It was to be my redemption, my masterwork. But last night, in the very chamber where I lodged, the instrument upon which I composed, the pianoforte itself, vanished utterly. Vanished, sir, as though the very air had swallowed it.
Vanished? Surely you mean stolen or removed by porters during your absence.
Would that it was so simple, doctor, but I swear to you and to Mr. Holmes that the pianoforte disappeared whilst I sat before it. I had just completed the central motif of the second movement when, upon striking the keys, I heard no sound, nothing but silence. I looked down, and the keyboard was gone. The lid, the frame, the sounding board, all were gone. I sat with my hands upon empty air. Only the bench remained beneath me.
Holmes, who had been listening with eyes half closed, now leaned forward, every feature alert with interest.
You say the piano vanished while you were in the act of playing it? You perceived no human agency, no movers, no trick of carpentry, no trap door?
None, sir. My lodgings are on the third floor of a boarding house in Bloomsbury. The door was locked, the window shut, and yet the instrument, an upright pianoforte of German make, ceased to exist before my eyes.
My dear Holmes, surely this is a delusion. Our visitor was overwrought, fatigued perhaps from labor at his art. I myself, in medical practice, have known patients who.
Hush, Watson. Let us never mistake the improbable for the impossible. Our client's senses may have deceived him, but we must not permit our reason to do the same. Pray continue, Mr. Penfield. Did you at once search the chamber?
Indeed, I did, sir. I examined every corner, opened the wardrobe, even peered beneath the bed, as if a pianoforte might conceal itself there. Neighbors heard my outcry and came running. They too saw the room, bare save for the stool and the folio upon it. My landlady insists I have gone mad. But I swear to you, Mr. Holmes, the piano was there one instant and gone the next.
And the sheet music you carry, this was composed upon that same vanished instrument.
Yes, sir. Every note of it. Without the instrument, I cannot refine the piece, nor can I rehearse. My reputation and my livelihood both depend upon the concert. Unless I recover the pianoforte, or at the very least solve the riddle of its disappearance, I am undone.
Holmes rose and paced the room, his long strides carrying him from hearth to window and back again. He rubbed his chin thoughtfully, then turned to me with a glint in his eye.
Watson, you recall my remark not 10 minutes past, that Baker Street would not remain quiet tonight? The game, it seems, has begun. A vanishing piano, Watson. Have you ever heard of such a marvel?
Never, Holmes, and I confess, I still struggle to believe it possible.
That is because you rely upon probability rather than possibility. The improbable, my dear friend, happens daily. It is only the impossible that remains forever barred. Let us then ascertain whether Mr. Penfield's pianoforte is improbable or impossible. Mr. Penfield, you must take us to your lodgings at once.
With all my heart, sir, I have prayed for nothing so much as your assistance. But I warn you, the landlady is hostile. She believes me deranged, and would prefer the matter hushed up.
So much the better. Opposition sharpens the wits. Watson, your hat and coat. We go to Bloomsbury.
Thus it was that within half an hour we found ourselves conveyed by hansom cabs to the winding, choked streets. The lamps cast shifting halos upon the fog, and the horses' hoofs struck sparks from the cobbles. Holmes sat rigid, his hawk-like profile silhouetted against the glass, his mind already racing ahead. Penfield clutched his folio upon his lap as though it were life itself. I, for my part, could not dispel the image of a piano vanishing before the eyes of its player. The city seemed to close in around us, whispering of secrets hidden in shadow as we drove towards the first act of a most singular mystery. The descent into the lower rooms of Mrs. Gaskell's boarding house was accomplished with much creaking of timbers and muttered protests from the landlady, who had reappeared upon hearing our footsteps. Isla, the candlelight trembled against wallpaper already blistered with damp, and the air grew close with the odor of boiled cabbage and coal smoke. Mr. Penfield followed like a man condemned, clutching his folio tightly against his breast, while Holmes moved ahead with swift, noiseless tread, pausing at every landing to examine the walls, the banisters, the very nails that held the carpet runner in place.
Watson, observe the spacing of these boards. They are old oak, but recently disturbed. Note the faint discoloration along the edges. Something has been lifted here and replaced within the last month.
Yes, Holmes, I see the difference in hue, though I should have walked past without remarking it.
Precisely. The criminal counts upon the public's blindness to detail. To the trained eye, however, each grain of wood is a witness. Now let us inquire of Mrs. Gaskell.
If you're meaning the floor, sir, it was repaired a fortnight ago. My second floor lodger complained of drafts. A carpenter from Holborn came to lay new planks.
Hey, just so. And what was the name of this carpenter?
I couldn't tell you, some tall fellow with a red beard. I paid him in coin and thought no more about it.
A pity. Yet red beards like pianos cannot vanish without trace. Watson, make a note of it. Now, let us see what lies immediately beneath Mr. Penfield's chamber.
We entered the second floor room, which was at present unoccupied, its bed stripped bare, its furniture cloaked in dust sheets. Holmes paced to the center of the floor and tapped with his cane, producing a hollow resonance unlike the solid tone one would expect. He dropped to one knee, pressed his ear against the boards, and then smiled in quiet satisfaction.
There, Watson, do you not hear it? A cavity beneath, large enough, I dare say, to swallow more than draughts, large enough, perhaps, for an entire pianoforte.
A hidden chamber? Then the piano may not have left the house at all.
Exactly. Now, the question remains, by what mechanism was it lowered from above without Mr. Penfield perceiving the transition?
Lowered, sir? You astonish me. Surely I would have felt the descent beneath me.
Would you? Mm. Consider. The player is absorbed in his art, his mind fixed upon the score, his hands occupied upon the keys. If the entire floor beneath the instrument descended slowly, by counterweight, perhaps, or hydraulic piston, you might experience only a curious vibration, such as you described, a hum beneath the floorboards. Ow!
Holmes's words struck me with the force of revelation. Gelling. The notion of an entire piano being swallowed by the earth seemed wild, and yet the hollow echo of the boards lent it credence. My friend's eyes shone with excitement like a scientist on the brink of discovery.
Watson, fetch that poker from the fireplace. We shall test these boards for weakness.
I complied, and together we prized up a length of flooring. Beneath lay darkness, but as Holmes lowered the candle into the aperture, the flickering light revealed an astonishing sight, a shaft descending into the depths of the house, lined with wooden beams and fitted with ropes and pulleys. At the bottom, far below, we glimpsed the curved outline of what could only be a piano resting silently in the gloom. Good heavens, there it is, the instrument itself.
Merciful Providence, my piano!
So much for vanishing into thin air. The trick, Watson, is as old as the stage, a trap door ingeniously concealed, through which the entire pianoforte has been lowered. The hum Penfield heard was the sound of machinery. The question is, why?
With Holmes's guidance, we descended to the ground floor, where a locked door barred our way to the cellars. Mrs. Gaskell, though reluctant, produced a key, muttering of nonsense and foolishness. Within, we found a cavernous space, its walls lined with coal and firewood. But in the center stood a wooden platform connected to ropes, wheels, and counterweights. Upon that platform, like some sacrificial idol, rested the pianoforte, unscathed but eerily silent.
There you have it, Watson. A perfectly contrived stage elevator concealed within a humble boarding house. Such craftsmanship bespeaks not a common carpenter, but a mechanic of considerable skill. See the polish of the wheels, the precision of the grooves. This is the work of a master.
But to what end? Why lower a piano into the cellars beneath its owner's nose?
That, my dear fellow, is the heart of the mystery. Theft is the obvious explanation, yet the instrument remains here untouched. Sabotage? Perhaps. Or perhaps something more elaborate, something that concerns not the piano itself, but the music it bears.
You bewilder me, sir. Who would wish to sabotage my work? I am no celebrity, only a struggling composer.
And yet, Mr. Penfield, even a struggling composer may stumble upon a melody others desire to suppress. Tell me, your composition, does it borrow from any source? Any folk song? Any secret theme entrusted to you?
None, sir. The music is wholly my own, though.
Though what?
There is one peculiarity. The central motif came to me in a dream. I awoke with it ringing in my ears, as though some unseen musician had played it to me in the night. I wrote it down at once, and it has since become the very soul of my concerto.
Holmes's brows knitted, and he muttered half to himself.
A melody in a dream, a piano swallowed by machinery, a brass fragment that does not belong. Watson, we are upon the edge of something curious indeed. Mark me, this affair reaches deeper than Bloomsbury. I must know who built this contrivance, and for whose hand.
Then you suspect a conspiracy?
I suspect only that human ingenuity rarely expends itself without motive. Somewhere in London is a man with a red beard and a talent for hidden machinery. Find him, Watson, and we find our truth. Meanwhile, Mr. Penfield, I urge you to guard your score most carefully. For if your enemies cannot steal your piano, they may attempt to steal the song itself.
At that moment, a distant bell tolled the hour, its mournful clang echoing through the cellar like a warning. Holmes extinguished the candle and straightened to his full height. His face was grave, yet his eyes glittered with anticipation.
Come, gentlemen, we have seen enough for tonight. Tomorrow we hunt the man with the red beard.
Thus ended the first stage of our adventure. A piano found, yet the riddle deepened, a mystery solved, yet a greater enigma born. I could not then imagine how perilous our quest would become, nor how the song itself would draw us into a web of intrigue that reached far beyond the walls of Bloomsbury. When morning broke over Baker Street the following day, the fog had lifted, and Mazza, the air still hung heavy with the acrid smoke of 1,000 chimneys. Holmes had risen before me, as was often his custom, and when I emerged from my room, I found him already at the table with maps, directories, and his chemical apparatus scattered around him in chaotic order. He had exchanged his dressing gown for a tweed suit, and the energy in his movements told me that his mind had raced far into the mystery during the night. Holmes, you look as though you have already solved the case before breakfast.
Not solved, Watson, merely sharpened the tools with which to cut. We are in pursuit of a red-bearded mechanic, a craftsman of no mean ability, who installed a trap capable of lowering an entire pianoforte into the bowels of a Bloomsbury boarding house. Such a man cannot be common. London swarms with tinkers and carpenters, but few who could accomplish such engineering in secrecy. Therefore, he must be known in certain circles.
And how do you propose to find him?
By the oldest method of all, my dear fellow, inquiry. I have already dispatched young Wiggins and his Baker Street irregulars to comb the workshops of Holborn and Clerkenwell. A red beard, Watson, is a beacon. With luck, by noon we shall have a name.
As if on cue, there came a tapping at the door, and in shuffled Wiggins, the street urchin, whose quick eyes and nimble feet had served us in many an adventure. He removed his cap and spoke with his usual bluntness.
Beg pardon, Mr. Holmes. Befoundine, name o' Ezekiel Trenchard, keeps a workshop off Leather Lane. Folks call him Red Zeke on account of the whiskers. Myths or contraptions, stage rigs, hidden doors, trap mechanisms for them, theaters. Got a reputation for being clever, but not over-scrupulous.
Excellent, Wiggins. You and your lads have earned your shillings handsomely. Here, take this coin and keep watch upon Mr. Trenchard's premises. Report to me any visitor of note. Listen, we go at once to Leather Lane.
Soon we were rattling through the crowded streets in a cab, Holmes silent and intent, I armed with my revolver by long habit, though half convinced it would not be needed. Leather Lane proved a narrow thoroughfare cluttered with costermongers, carts, and shouting hawkers. At its far end, we found the place, a grimy workshop with windows thick with soot, and above the door, a fading sign, E. Blanchard, Engineer of Mechanisms.
Observe, Watson, the iron filings upon the sill, the heavy crates by the entrance. Business here is active, though the sign suggests disuse. Concealment in plain sight, as ever.
We entered and were met with a curious sight. The interior resembled a magician's storeroom. Wheels, pulleys, counterweights, and elaborate frames shrouded every surface. At the far bench, bending over a set of blueprints, stood a broad shouldered man with a mane of flaming beard. He straightened, eyes narrowing at our intrusion.
Who are ye, and what's your business in Ezekiel Trenchard's shop?
Sherlock Holmes, consulting detective, and this is my colleague, Dr. Watson. We come regarding a certain pianoforte, lowered into a cellar by means of a trap you constructed in a Bloomsbury house.
So, the trap worked, eh? Ha! I told him it would. Smooth as silk, down she goes. But what business is that of yours?
The business of justice, Mr. Trenchard. You were hired by someone to create this contrivance. I must know who.
Now, why should I tell you? My clients pay well for silence.
Because your client intends more than theatrics, and you may find yourself accessory to a crime far darker than mere carpentry. Consider carefully, Mr. Trenchard. The law makes no distinction between the man who builds the pistol and the man who pulls the trigger.
Gee, the mechanic's ruddy face paled somewhat, though his eyes still glittered with defiance.
I was paid in sovereigns to build a stage lift, not to ask questions. But, well, I'll tell you this much. The man who hired me called himself Mr. Green. Thin fellow, foreign accent, eyes sharp as knives. He brought sketches, knew what he wanted, paid half in advance, half on completion. That's all I know.
A foreign accent, you say? Could you identify his nationality?
German, maybe, or Austrian. Something from the continent, that's sure.
Indeed. And this Mr. Green, did he mention why he required the piano to vanish?
Not in so many words. Only said the music was dangerous, that it must be silenced before it was heard. I thought him cracked, but his money was sound. Dangerous music.
Holmes exchanged a glance with me, his brows lifting in silent emphasis. Dangerous music! The phrase struck a chord of unease within me. Holmes, surely he does not mean that Mr. Penfield's composition holds some secret?
It seems increasingly probable, Watson. Music may convey more than melody. Chords, signals, even mathematical formulae can be embedded within notes. Mr. Trenchard! Did Mr. Trenchard Green give any instruction beyond the trap's construction?
Only this, that once the piano was lowered, it must remain below until he returned with men to fetch it away. I asked when that might be, but he only laughed and said, when the last note is played.
A curious phrase indeed. Very well, Mr. Gaines. Trenchard, you have been frank, and I shall not press you further. But take warning, if harm comes of this scheme, your name will not be spared. Good day.
With that, Holmes turned upon his heel and strode into the street, leaving the mechanic to mutter among his gears. I hurried after him, bewildered. Holmes, what can it mean? Dangerous musics? Surely a tune is but a tune.
Do not underestimate the subtle arts, Watson. Consider the ancients who believed music could stir armies or calm tempests. Consider the mathematician who may encode a cipher within notes. Suppose Mr. Penfield's melody, born in a dream, he says, contains a secret intended never to be revealed.
But revealed by whom?
That, my dear fellow, is what we must discover. Come, we return to Baker Street. There is research to be done.
Back at our lodgings, Holmes immersed himself in his volumes of arcane knowledge. He rifled through treatises on cryptography, histories of secret societies, and even monographs upon the psychology of music. All afternoon he pored over staves and scales, humming fragments of Penfield's score that the composer had left with us. At last, as twilight fell, he sprang up with a cry of triumph.
Watson, it is as I suspected. The motif conceals a code. Look here. Take the first note of each bar, convert its pitch to a letter by simple substitution, and what do you read?
I bent over the paper, and slowly the letters resolved themselves into words. My heart gave a leap. Oh, the key lies in Vienna. Good heavens, Holmes, it is a message.
Precisely. And not merely a message, but a directive. Someone has planted within Penfield's dream a melody which conceals the command to seek a key in Vienna. Question is, who and why?
At that instant, a knock rattled the door. Mrs. Hudson entered, pale and trembling.
Mr. Holmes, there's a gentleman below asking for you. Says his name is Green. Will you see him?
Holmes's eyes flashed. He reached for his violin, set it upon the table as though it were a weapon, and whispered to me in urgent tones.
The game quickens, Watson. Mr. Green has come to us of his own accord. Ready yourself. We may at last confront the mind behind the vanishing piano.
The fire burned low in our Baker Street sitting room, casting long flickering shadows against the bookshelves and the framed Persian slipper on the mantel. Mrs. Hudson had scarcely finished announcing the visitor when the man himself entered, and I confess my blood chilled at the sight. He was tall, gaunt, with the pallor of one who lived more in lamplight than under the sun. He was trim clothes, his hair slicked back with continental precision, but it was his eyes that arrested me. Icy grey, piercing, restless, darting from Holmes to myself and back again with the vigilance of a predator.
Herr Holmes, said he in a voice soft yet cutting, and Dr. Watson, ja? So the hounds have scented me sooner than I expected.
Mr. Green, or should I say Herr Grun, Austrian, perhaps Prussian, certainly of the German tongue. You honor us by stepping into our den voluntarily. May I offer you a chair?
Your courtesy is wasted, sir. I came not for tea, but to reclaim what is mine, the piano, and the melody that resided in it. You have interfered sufficiently.
Yours? The piano belongs to Mr. Enfield, a humble composer who never sought entanglement with espionage. Taught Dowsett to being by this.
Ah, poor Penfield, a vessel only, not the source. He dreamed the melody because it was planted in him. Hypnotic suggestion, gentlemen. We of the continent have studied such arts deeply. In a moment between waking and sleep, we gave him the theme, never knowing if it would blossom. It did, and it contained more than music.
A cipher encoding the phrase, the key lies in Vienna. We have already deciphered it, Herr Grun. But tell me, what key and why Vienna?
You are clever, Holmes, but not omniscient. The melody conceals the location of a document, an agreement signed secretly between two empires that could plunge Europe into chaos if revealed. The piano was to vanish until we might transport it safely abroad. But you have meddled.
His voice rose, and for a moment the mask of control slipped, revealing the fanatic beneath. Holmes, however, remained unruffled, tapping his long fingers together as though playing an invisible clavier.
Your plan was ingenious, I grant you. To hide a cipher within a tune entrusted to a dreamer who believed it, his own composition. Admirable. But you erred in one respect.
And that is?
In thinking that London, the city with eyes and ears in every alley, would allow a foreign agent to burrow unseen. Your red-bearded accomplice betrayed you by his very uniqueness, and your arrogance brought you to my doorstep.
Groon's hand twitched toward his coat pocket, but quicker than thought, Holmes had drawn the revolver he seldom carried, save at direst need.
How? Do not, Herr Grun. My friend Watson also carries an arm, and unlike myself, he has spent service years firing it in earnest.
Track, and indeed, sir, I said firmly, though my heart pounded.
Smiling thinly. So, you have me trapped, but what will you do, Holmes? Turn me to Scotland Yard? They will not grasp the significance of what I bear. The melody is still in my mind. The key remains hidden in Vienna, awaiting only the one who can read the notes.
Your mind, perhaps, but music may be copied, analyzed, destroyed. The tune lies also with me now, and I have no intention of allowing it into careless hands. As for you, Lestrade shall know what to do with an agent of espionage who traffics in stolen secrets.
At that moment, heavy boots clattered upon the stairs, and Inspector Lestrade himself burst into the room, breathless but resolute. Holmes, it seemed, had sent a telegram earlier in the day.
Holmes, Watson, I came as quick as I could, and this, I take it, is our quarry.
Indeed, Lestrade. Herr Grun, alias Mr. Green, foreign agent, mastermind of the Vanishing Piano. He is yours.
Bitterly, so the curtain falls. But mark me, Holmes, the play is not ended. Vienna will yet sing, and when she does, Europe shall tremble.
With iron restraint, Lestrade's men clapped irons upon the spy and bore him struggling down the stairs. The echoes of his threats lingered in the room long after his footsteps had faded. The days that followed were filled with inquiry. The Foreign Office, apprised of the matter, hushed the affair with typical discretion, whispering only of continental intrigues and thanking Holmes in guarded phrases. Mr. Holmes, Penfield, the composer, was released from suspicion, though he vowed never again to trust a melody that arrived unbidden in his dreams. Horns, I said one evening, as we sat once more by our fire, I cannot shake the unease that clings to this case. A melody planted like a parasite in the mind, a piano swallowed by the earth, and a spy who claims that the fate of Europe rests upon a tune. It all seems scarcely credible.
Yet credible it is, Watson. Men will go to astounding lengths for power. Today it is ink upon a treaty. Tomorrow it may be a code hidden in music. The human mind is both lock and key, and there will always be those who seek to master it.
But what is the message? The key lies in Vienna. Have we truly forestalled danger or only delayed it?
We have struck a blow, not finished the war. Another agent may pursue the secret in Vienna, but Herr Grun's immediate scheme is ended. Our duty lies not in reshaping empires, but in defending the innocent who stumble, like Penfield, into the path of darker designs.
I could not argue with this philosophy, though it left me with a gnawing sense that larger forces moved beyond the grasp of any detective, however brilliant. Holmes leaned back, his keen profile illuminated by the lamplight, and drew his violin from its case.
Listen, Watson. Here is the theme as Penfield dreamed it.
He played the haunting strain, notes rising like ghosts in the air. To my ears, it was both beautiful and sorrowful, a whisper from some realm beyond reason. Yet as Holmes played, I fancied I heard beneath the melody another voice, the echo of Groom's warning that Vienna would yet sing. When the final note faded, Holmes lowered the bow. His eyes, half closed, betrayed a fatigue deeper than physical.
It is finished, Watson, for now. Remember always, every tune has its last note. The trick is to know when it has truly ended.
And so concluded the affair of the Song of the Vanishing Piano, a case unlike any other, where espionage, music, and human imagination intertwined. To this day, whenever I hear the lonely strains of a violin in the night, I recall the vision of that piano sinking into the earth, the cry of a spy undone, and the figure of Sherlock Holmes declaring with his customary calm that for him everything was elementary.